Welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, coming to you every week from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful ice of the Galactic Empire. Join your hosts, John Mark Tolley, Garrett K. Jones, and Brian Karasik, as they discuss the various facets of the saga's lore, characters, review the films, and discuss every tidbit of news coming out of Lucasfilm. And remember, this isn't just my Star Wars, this isn't just your Star Wars, this is our Star Wars.
All right, welcome once again, everyone, to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. The gang's all here once again.
2 weeks in a row. That's amazing.
Yes, I know, right? I know. We'll have to see if this can continue for, well, at least till I go on vacation. But that's another story. How are you fellas doing today?
Vacation. I've never heard of a vacation before.
Crazy talk.
I know. Hey, happy post Father's Day,
I know.
you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Did you guys do anything special?
Well,
not
I was
Father's
telling-
Day itself.
Go for it, Mark.
Go ahead.
Oh,
my wife actually for Father's Day.
We're having a little bit of a glitch here with our sound. I think there's a lag somewhere.
I see it.
Well, I give up on my headphones. It's just not going to work for me.
That's a bummer. Did you charge the battery?
Yeah, I mean, they're charged. It says I'm connected, but it just doesn't see it as an option for output.
Huh, weird.
Hmm.
All right, so Mark, as you were saying.
But
Yes.
Oh, my wife forgot it was Father's Day. So,
Them fighting words.
Oh, it gets better. It's better.
Oh, and today is our anniversary, and we both forgot it was our anniversary.
Oh, no.
I love it.
So, but no, Friday, me and my daughter, I was telling him before we got on air, me and my daughter and her friend, we went and saw How to Train Your Dragon live action. She loved it. Well, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was probably one of the better live action remakes they've done that has been done in a long time. Better than anything Disney's done. For
I agree.
Ages.
I've said a couple times I wish Disney would watch some DreamWorks remakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they should be doing.
Well,
but yeah.
Go for it.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, and for me, I mean, I was more like, in a movie like that, I'm more like, okay, what does my daughter think about it? Because it's a movie that's for kids, geared to kids. And she just disappeared. That was.
He said he
eerie.
gave kind of the 1 second gesture.
Oh, okay. I just saw on my screen the lag. It's just he's there, then he's gone. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah.
It was like he just.
Technology.
I'm like, oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Nice. I was just telling.
You got the cup.
He got the cup. Yeah.
We got the big cup.
I was.
We got the popcorn bucket. We got the little cup with the toothless topper. And we went back a second time and got a little cup with the Stormfly topper.
Nice.
Oh, I was
My daughter
hoping
is
that Lily.
Full How to Train Your Dragon. She's loved that show for a couple of years now, and this is the first time they've been like fresh merch on the shelf. So she's really loving it.
My daughter is the same way. That it's. I told Garrett that How to Train Your Dragon is my daughter's Star Wars. Like, she knows all the dragons. She knows all. She can tell you all the classes, all the different types, and what type they are, what they do, and like, she's
fish legs, right? She's like
geek out on
17,
it.
Fire Blast.
Right.
Like,
That's her. Yes, she's fish legs. She is fish legs. But for Halloween, I think I said this before. For Halloween this year, she dressed up as Astrid.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture. Looks great.
She even has the battle axe. She even got the two bladed axe. I dressed up as Hiccup, which was kind of awkward, but and then my wife was Toothless. She had a little
That's cool.
had a little hat and little hat with little black wings, and it was really cute.
That's cool. Yeah, for Father's Day yesterday, I took my son. He's been wanting to go see it for months, ever since he started seeing the trailers, because like for the last year or so, he's been wanting to see these like animated versus battles of Godzilla and other variations of the MonsterVerse versus like the Bloop or versus the Red Death from How to Train Your Dragon. So he's very, very familiar with these large kaiju creatures, and so like when he found out that they had a toy of the Red Death from the new movie, he's been pestering his mom to get it.
Things
like
pricey.
he was at Target, and she got him one of the smaller dragons, and he was very grumpy. I said, "Well, look, dude, if you want it, you've got money stored up from birthdays, Christmases, Tooth Fairy. If you want to get it, let's take your money down there and go get it. There's a cost for it."
That's the colossal one, right?
Yeah. The Titan. He was very specific. It was the Titan Red Death. So he's making that association of Titan, MonsterVerse, and so he got it. I was gonna make him pay the whole thing. I made him pay $20. I paid the other half of it. So I didn't want him to go completely broke and use all of his cash. But we had a blast. Like it was really kind of cute, because during the scene where Hiccup finally makes physical contact with Toothless, they do the whole nose touching, like hand on the nose thing.
Yeah.
Like as that whole scene is playing out, my son is kneeling in his seat in the theater, and he is looking away like this and holding out his hand towards the screen, and I'm just like, that is so cute.
That's awesome.
Yes.
What
was funny was
between this film and the Jurassic Park films, I think that we're setting an unfair and a really unsafe precedent for children to think that dangerous large reptiles can be touched by an open palm. Just like, oh, that's all you need to do is boop them on the nose. Just boop, and it's yours.
Yes. What the kids we went with, it was my daughter and her friend and her friend's brother. We're good friends with this couple, and they're getting ready to go on vacation, so they were trying to pack for vacation. So we took the kids to go to the movies. And first of all, I think that took any desire for us to have any other kids, because the amount we had to pay for 3 kids plus us to go to the movie was like, plus popcorn and everything. It was like, holy cow. But afterwards,
this weekend, or did you want to go to college? Your pick.
Yeah, the boy is totally nonchalant. He's I think he starts first grade this year, and so he's totally nonchalant about everything. I asked him what he thought of it. His response was, "Meh." I'm like, you just don't care. You're just like, eh. Well, they watched the last movie they went to was Wild Robot.
Okay,
and the girls loved it, and he was like, I don't like talking animals. I give it a 0 out of 10. I don't like talking animals. And my wife was like, well, you like Lion King? I was like, okay, I'll give it a 3.
So Mark,
anyway, we're not here to talk about Lion King or How to Train Your Dragon. We are here to do our of season 2 of Andor. Cue cheering.
Yeah, Brian, you were going to ask Mark a question. What were you going to say?
It was still on How to Train Your Dragon. Just as a Star Wars fan,
fine.
Mark, I was curious what you thought, and also what Lily, as a Train Your Dragon fan, thought that the Red Death is finally actually a red dragon.
Right.
I never even noticed that.
Is conspicuously not red in the original movie.
Oh,
yeah, it was very bright blue.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know. I'll have to ask Lily about that.
It's never addressed. I mean, are we to believe that in some universe this is the color it's called? No, just kidding. I did always like that. As a longtime D&D kid, I expect dragons to be color coded for your convenience.
There you go.
I'm the same way.
Yes.
But moving along.
Andor season 2. Now, as we've mentioned before, Brian has not yet watched Andor season 2.
I'm interested to learn.
Well, learn you shall, my young Padawan. I mean, so how are we going to start this review? I mean, are we going to do? Should we do? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's a really good picture.
Really
I
cool.
like that picture.
I think the first thing I'd like to do is compare and contrast it to season 1. Was it better than season 1, or equally as good as season 1, or was it not as good as season 1?
For me, it's kind of weird because we're talking about, like, I feel like we're talking about two very different shows, like the same show, but like the format is a little bit different because, like, with season 1, we were getting one episode a week for, what was it, 11 or 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it was really slow, really long and drawn out, really paced. Whereas this one, we got 4 weeks. Each episode, each week had a cluster of 3 episodes because they were telling a particular story arc. And I like that. So it's a little bit of a different animal.
I did too.
I think we get a little bit more characterization on some of the more background characters from season 1, but at the same time, like for the first half of the season, my constant joke in the Feast of Fandoms chat was, I'd like a little bit more Andor with my Andor, because he was featured very non-prominently in being the title character.
Right.
I gotta say, Garrett, you're real picky about expecting the title character to actually be in the show. I heard the same thing from you with Boba Fett.
Well, you tell me the show is called Andor or Boba Fett, you expect those characters to be in there a little bit more frequently.
Who are we seeing more of in this case?
Well,
Mothma.
We do see a lot of Mon Mothma. We get more of the relationship between Dedra Mira and Cyril Karn. I keep wanting to call him Kyle, and I'm like, that's not his name. He looks like a Kyle, though.
He does look like a
and
Kyle.
I think the actor's real name is Kyle. I think that's what's throwing me off.
The cynic in me, whenever a show introduces a new character sort of as an unusually prominent character, it's often sort of like a secret pilot. Do you think that's what's happening? Like, I felt Book of Boba Fett's
it definitely can, unless they do.
Mandalorian was really leaning on and emphasizing, hey, watch this show too. Do you think we're going to see a Mon Mothma series?
No, I don't think so, because as prominent as Mon Mothma was, her character arc comes to an end as far as like the version that we know of her from the prequels, and all the way through to what we get of her in Return of the Jedi. She's at that point.
Okay.
I mean, maybe like a one-off, micro movie, like like a 45-minute episode or something, like way down the line, but
a chapter in an anthology.
Yeah, it's really kind of pointless to focus on her as a character. I mean, we do get a little bit more with Forrest Whitaker as
Saul.
as Saw Gerrera, and he comes off completely unhinged, and I love that. He is
a really, even in the film and from what we see of him in Clone Wars, he is a PTSD case, like and I think very well handled.
Oh yeah. Well, what's interesting is there's what was it, episode 8 or 9, where he and one of his guys they're dealing with the rhodium gas, and they're filling up all these canisters to plant bombs and stuff like that. And he unhooks the hose and he's just breathing it in. Like, he's been spending all this time with this gas, and it has a deteriorating effect on someone's mental capacity. So like, he's encouraging one of his followers. He's like, just breathe it in. That right there is the cost for freedom, or something along those lines. And it's just like, dude, you are seriously unhinged.
I know I've mentioned this on the show before, but I do want to reiterate a really nice echo that we see of Saw Gerrera in Rogue One when Saw's troops take out that Imperial tank in the marketplace, the Jedha marketplace. They are using a tactic that we see Ahsoka Tano teach Saw in Clone Wars. And that's a really, really nice touch.
I think it's really good attention to detail too.
I loved. I can't think. I know. Just watched it. The character that for most of the show that Andor works for, directly under
Luthen Rail.
Luthen. I mean, he's not a nice guy.
No, he's an awful person.
He is a horrible human being in every sense of the word. He is a horrible human being. And that's what makes it so, I mean, you have this guy who's on the right, I mean, technically on the right side. Like, he's doing all this horrible stuff, but it's for technically for the right reasons and for the good guys. But I mean, I'll say it right now, he's essentially a villain. Like,
I will say this, he's got some villainous tendencies, but I wouldn't say he is a villain in the classic sense. He's more of an anti-villain.
Right.
He does a lot of bad things. Yeah. He does way too much bad to be considered a good guy, even if he's fighting for the right side. But I mean, you have to think you've got this character who is a former Imperial officer. He has seen the travesties committed by his government. He has turned his back on that to become a turncoat. And like, from the Imperial perspective, yeah, he's a bad guy because he should have been siding with them the entire time as far as their philosophy is concerned. But like, as far as he's concerned, he's the Benedict Arnold to the Empire.
Right.
And but at the same time, like, even the rebellion was concerned about his tactics and the way he was operating, like, just as much as they were concerned about Saw Gerrera and the way he operated.
Well, the scene that really stands out to me with Luthen is, I can't remember what episode it was. I think it was the last episode, the final episode, where he's talking with the Imperial plant that he put into the ISB, and they're on that bench, and he tells him about basically the Death Star, and it's this whole thing. And the minute he tells him, Luthen, about what's going on, that he has to leave, in the back of your mind, you're like, this guy's a dead man.
Oh yeah.
Like, Luthen does not hesitate a bit. He gets information from him, tells him straight to his face, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And then just shoots him and walks away. Just cold blood. And probably if knowing Luthen, he probably sent out agents to this operative's family's house and had his family killed too. Knowing Luthen, that's probably what he would have done. Leave no loose ends.
So
that was a good scene. I love that scene at the beginning. Stealing the TIE.
This is one of the things that really caught my attention, was this scene where he's stealing this TIE Avenger, and at the beginning, the opening episode, it was like, the fact that they used so many practical effects, so many practical set pieces was brilliant. Because you could see him physically touching the console, you could see him physically touching the ship, and it goes back to that old style of filmmaking. But what I thought was great is the fact that he has no idea how to fly this thing. Like, he has abilities as a pilot, but he has no idea what he's doing. Like, why wouldn't you train him up to give him some kind of experience.
I know.
Like,
What got me is as a old school like fan of the old legends and knowing a lot of information about the starfighters. When I saw that the word Sinar come out, I geeked out because I knew exactly when I saw Sinar. I'm like, ooh, Sinar fleet systems. I'm like, okay, they're stealing a tie.
What's interesting is
now is that an advance, or that looks almost like when I first saw it, I thought it was an interceptor.
Yeah, I thought so too. No, it's listed as a TIE Avenger.
TIE Avenger, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
it was
which is listed as an experimental series, so I could see how it might have some different controls than anything Cassian was familiar with.
Yeah, and the fact that it looked a lot bigger inside. Like the cockpit looked a lot bigger inside, and the fact that it looked like it had wrong franchise.
Wikipedia's got a nice hung a lampshade on this.
Yeah.
It says controlled by an unusual control system which could be confusing even to experienced pilots if not acquainted with it. So
that explains a lot.
Speaking as someone with real world experience in the C-130 cockpit and also in the HH-60, I can tell you that learning one aircraft does not let you fly any other aircraft at all. It's not like going from a Honda to a Hyundai.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and the fact that when he crash lands, basically he crashes in Yavin. That was another thing that, even though they don't mention it, the minute I saw the Maasai temples, it just was like, okay, I know where they're at.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Sinar factories, weren't they based on Sullust?
And I think in Legends they were. In this one, it looks like the planet was named Sinar.
Oh, because like my first thought was, is this our first on-screen depiction of Sullust? Because we've always heard about it, we've never seen it.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever seen it on a screen was in the 2015 Star Wars Battlefronts, where one of the maps is a hangar bay on Sullust.
It could be, but no. In the on the screen, it just says, they go to the planet. It just says Sinar.
Okay.
So locations are listed as an orbital shipyard CC-24, the Rothana Imperial Shipyards, and Weapons Factory Alpha. None of which are listed as being on a planet called Sinar.
Yeah.
Do you think that might just be the corporate name? Like if the fade up on the IBM headquarters and the Chiron just says IBM?
It could be.
I mean, yeah, but think about, I mean, how many times the Empire has come through and they've changed the names of planets to suit their needs.
Yeah.
Or months.
Right.
I mean, what is August anyway?
Well, it was named after Caesar Augustus.
A joke
if
for the
you
Roman,
know your etymology
in the audience.
Let me see here. There's another photo file that I wanted to throw up there. Not that one. Oh, here we go. So this is a shot of Cyril and Dedra that I thought was interesting. Like their whole dynamic is really interesting. Like she goes from being like super protective of him to being super manipulative of him to like when he finally throws off the shackles and he finally grows a pair, like you can see there, like he has this breaking point during the third arc of the season where like when he realizes how she's been manipulating him in his role as an Imperial agent, he thought they were trying to save everybody, that they were trying to fix things and make things better and end the violence, only to find out that they were making it worse.
Yeah.
And like after all the emotional and verbal abuse that he had from his mom, he finally snaps, and like that scene where he grabs her around the neck, man, that like I don't condone the violence at all, but man, that like it was palpable. You can feel like such great writing, such great acting. From the performances were amazing. Like it left me, dude.
Yeah. Are you glad that he didn't get the full redemption arc?
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
There wasn't a point where he suddenly turns and joins the rebellion and becomes a freedom fighter because he saw the error of his ways. Do you think like his ending of him getting basically shot like that out of nowhere, like, do you think that was a fitting for the end of Cyril Karn?
I do because, like, I mean, he was a. You look at the kind of character he is. I've used this phrase before. He's a true believer. He's a true believer in the cause that he is fighting for. He believes that the Empire is just. He believes the Empire is the right way to go about doing things.
Yeah.
When he starts,
well, if you remember him from the first season, was basically a cop.
Yeah.
And he looked at it as a very black and white thing of, this guy broke the law, he needs to go to jail. It doesn't matter it's like, to him that was that simple. You broke the law, you go to jail. And I think he would be the same way if he had grown up in the Republic. Under that, he'd still be the same way. You broke the law, you go to jail. He happens to be in the Empire. You broke the law.
We don't see a lot of the finer points or nuances of Imperial law, though, right? Like, we see people who are condemned to work out their lives on a prison planet. I wonder if there's like a jail that isn't that. Is there any like 30 days time served type situation, or like once you break the law, or just like off you go?
Well, I don't know, because I think that's kind of what especially this season showed, was just how evil the Empire could be and how manipulative it could be, and but at the same time, how people like Cyril Karn could serve it and be true believers.
So here's my thought on it. Like, you look at this from the lens of dystopian sci-fi fiction, okay?
Right.
Because essentially that's what anybody living under the Empire is dealing with. They're living in a dystopian nightmare. Cyril comes from the mid rim, or maybe even outer rim, where like it's he's there as a peacekeeper. This is something he believes in doing, and he finally gets his shot. He finally feels recognized. He goes into a corp, like a desk job, but he knows he's destined for doing something more. And he convinces Dedra to work with him, and it goes from being like a police officer to like a CIA analyst to being like an actual CIA asset. Okay, that's like the trajectory of his career path. And then when he realizes that the CIA has been spying on its own people instead of spying on who we thought were the bad guys, that's when he has that breaking point. But like because of where he's from, I can see where he buys in that the Empire is good, because they're bringing law, they're bringing order to a place that was probably not as organized and not as civil as places within the core, even though the core worlds had a ton of uncivility. So you look at the different sides of the coin and the facets, but like, again, this goes back to great story writing, great character development, great performances from the actors.
Well, what about, I mean, we're looking at Cyril there, but what about, I mean, the characterization of Dedra? Like, she has her breaking point too. Like, a mental breakdown.
And I gotta find that picture.
Hold on
a second here. There's a particular scene in it's so I'll bring this up. It is, and the performance is a freaking masterclass in tension, where we have open up. There we go. It's this picture right here, where Krennic has been walking around behind her. He's been talking with her. And
oh yes,
when she has no, like, she's been trying to do investigations. She's trying to figure out everything because she wants to get ahead. That's how engaged she is in all this. But it creates a paper trail of espionage, internal espionage. And it gets to the point where everything falls on her. And Krennic has her dead to rights. And when she realizes that the person he's talking about, that the internal mole that they've been hunting is her, and he taps her on the head like that reaction is visceral. Like, you can see just the amount, like, the color is washing out of her face, like the blood is draining. She is absolutely freaked out. And one of the last scenes we get of her is in a prison very similar to where Andor was in season 1. It's the same structure.
Well, I was even thinking of the scene like right during the it's right after Cyril is killed, and it's right during the Gorman massacre, where you just see her hand trembling, like, and she's trying to control because she knows what she's doing is wrong, and she knows that.
Yeah.
Like that scene right there, just like that was the one that just like, but yet she still keeps.
Yeah, she like both actors between her, the actress who played Dedra and Ben Mendelsohn, like their performances are just so powerful because Mendelsohn especially like when we see him in Rogue One, we get the pompous arrogance and stuff like that. But in Andor, we're seeing a guy who is far more menacing than we gave him credit for.
Yes.
Krennic seemed like a sniveling punk in Rogue One. In this, we get to see just how dangerous he is.
Yeah. And just like how dangerous, like how much secrecy went into building the Death Star.
Oh, I know.
And how much, and like even when that one ISB agent at the end commits unalivement.
Yeah.
Just because he knew he found out too much.
He knew too much. Things were crashing down on him.
It's interesting to see.
Yeah, it's just
Krennic in Rogue One is sort of a weak character, but if you're weaker than Tarkin, that's still pretty good compared to the rest of the Empire.
Yeah.
I love the fact that other than Krennic and Mon Mothma, we don't really see a lot of legacy characters. I'm glad of that. I'm glad we didn't see the Emperor. I'm glad we didn't see Vader. I'm glad we didn't see these other characters that Well,
we got to see Bail again.
We did get to see Bail. But,
although it was interesting because he wasn't being played by Jimmy Smits, he's being played by Benjamin Bratt.
Boo!
I know. Well, I mean, like, apparently Smits was not available for shooting.
Smits or nothing.
You know what? I think Benjamin Bratt did a good enough job for the short amount of screen time he got in. Like you could see where he was really trying to channel his inner Jimmy Smits.
Right.
So I mean, I think he did okay with that. But I mean, again, like, yeah, I agree with you, Mark. It's good to see characters who are not legacy characters, like aside from the ones that we get who are threaded in very, very strategically. Like, I mean, while this show is called Andor, especially with season 2, like this right here should have been called like Rebellion, or it should have been subtitled Rebellion.
Alliance,
because you get to see a lot more of the stuff going on behind the scenes, not just the espionage, but the politics behind it as well, and the things that the cost that comes with fighting for freedom, because and it goes back to that adage: freedom isn't free.
Right.
It makes sense too. I think the showrunners had something to say about that. They're like, most people in the galaxy have never seen a Jedi, will never see a Jedi, will never meet anyone in the, and they refer to them as the royal family.
Right.
Even in the trilogy, even in the prequels, there's 10,000 Jedi alive, which is, I think, the most we ever see on screen, or the most present in any time period we ever see filmed. 10,000 out of a whole galaxy is not a lot. So the odds of them bumping into one another are anyway. I think that's cool. Obviously, I'm going to look for Palpatine in any show. That just fuels my ongoing joke that Palpatine's such a good villain. He's the ultimate villain of things he's not even in.
Well, but that's just it though, Brian. Is that your hero character is actually threaded throughout especially in this season more so than season 1, because he is name dropped repeatedly, either by his title or by the name Palpatine, and there's grave concern about the way he's operating. Some of the things that we've talked about in the past about how Palpatine doesn't care about the politics. He doesn't care about the cost of things. He just wants to use the power and control it because that's what he does. He manipulates. He manhandles everything like a puppet master. And you see that happening. He's not physically present on the screen, but you can feel his presence in the way that he is operating, because you see everything that every character does, whether it's a nameless person in the crowd who is just an extra to the title character. Everybody is moving in accordance with whatever puppet strings Palpatine is pulling.
At a certain echelon of imperial ascendancy, what matters is not your loyalty to the Empire, not your efficacy of the Empire. What matters is your loyalty to Palpatine. There's a number of times in comic books, in novels, even to some extent in television shows, where we see two different characters whose loyalty is to Palpatine, who do things that detriment the Empire to get at each other, which ultimately pleases Palpatine. I think I mentioned that last week on our Dr. Aphra discussion, where Aphra betrays one person who's betraying Palpatine, and Palpatine's happy with them both. So it's an interesting role to play. Well, you guys have sold me. I'm definitely gonna. I think I just gotta bite the bullet and renew Disney Plus so I can catch up on this. I'm embarrassed.
One thing I wanted to
podcast and be 2 seasons behind Andor, because from all I'm reading, it's some of the best television show out there.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to get Garrett's thoughts on and I'll just to pull the Band-Aid off, is the controversial essay scene. Because I know one of the prominent Star Wars YouTubers out there, his comment was something to the effect of, Vader wouldn't allow this. Vader, this wouldn't be something. And my response is, have you not met Darth Vader? Darth Vader wouldn't give 2 craps about that.
Well, so here's where I stand on it. It's like, watching this felt very much like watching a movie like Inglourious Bastards or Allies, or any other movie that deals with like World War II espionage pre-Cold War. Yeah. Okay? There is like the sequence that happens with Bix in episode 3 of season 2.
Yes.
It's in that first story arc. That felt very much like what happens with Shoshana in towards the tail end of Inglourious Bastards, where the young German officer, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. We'll just call him Baron Zemo, because it's the same actor. But Baron Zemo comes walking in. He wants to see her in the projection room. She's dolled up for this beautiful premiere and wearing this bright red dress. She's getting ready to burn all these Nazi officers alive in the theater, and he goes in. He has this mad crush on her, and it's not the same context for what happens with Bix by any means, but it gets violent. And you have that where you have characters who feel like they are that they are entitled to certain things. In the case of the officer that deals with Bix, he feels he's entitled to have her do whatever act he wants her to do, so that he'll leave her alone. It's his feeling of control. Ultimately, the definition of power is being able to lord some kind of influence over another person. And in the case of what happens in Inglourious Bastards, Baron Zemo, he gets really frustrated with her because she is not accepting his advances. Like, he's trying to be very romantic, but he feels because of his celebrity status and because he's a German and she's French, that he's somehow entitled to have her fall in love with him, even though she can't stand him. And it gets deadly for the both of them. In this case, we've got, Bix, who rightfully defends herself from being attacked. And I think it's necessary. I mean, obviously we're talking about a show that's way more adult in its themes.
Yeah.
But like, these are the realities. These are things.
And that's what got me was this, and I don't wait to name drop names or anything like that, of these people who would say something like, "Oh, the Empire would never allow this." Have you met the Empire?
The Empire is the same.
Vader wouldn't allow this crap. I'm like, again,
Vader
wouldn't give a crap.
He'll allow.
Yeah.
That line, I think, is specifically and exclusively to separate a favorite character from an extremely unpleasant act, and it's an interesting nod. And we're trying to humanize a canonical child murderer, but like, not that.
Here's how I think Vader would handle if someone came to Vader and said, "One of your officers just assaulted this woman." He'd kill the person who ratted the officer out for ratting the officer out, then kill the officer for getting caught, and then kill the woman for.
I disagree with you. I don't think he would kill the person doing the reporting. I think he would. I think he would not say anything to anybody. He would approach the officer who conducted the misdeed privately, and then kill him off screen. In some way using the Force. Like, there wouldn't be a lightsaber burn. There wouldn't be any marks on the body. This guy would just be choked to death, and there would be no fingerprints. That's how. The whole sequence kind of reminds me of something. There was back in the early 2000s when Marvel was starting to do their Max imprint, where they take some of their more mature characters like Punisher. There is a book called Punisher Max, and it shows Frank Castle's backstory during Vietnam, which is one of the few books to do so. And Frank is leading his platoon through the jungle, and they come across some Viet Cong, and one of their opponents is a woman who's just trying to protect her village. And one of his own soldiers gets this woman alone by the riverbank and tries to assault her. And Castle comes upon it, beats the guy, shoots the woman in the head, because at this point she's going to be more of a liability than anything else. And he's like, "We don't do that." And then later he gets the guy alone. The guy is, washing out his helmet or something like that, washing his face in the river, filling a canteen maybe. And he just steps on the guy's face, drowns him, and then dumps the body into the river and lets the current take it away. That's the kind of thing that I think Vader would do. He wouldn't condone it, but he wouldn't make it a big deal either.
No. Yeah. I think this one, more than any of these, more than season 1, had a lot of scenes that, for better or for worse, were very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, you sat there, like, that was a good one. I think the Gorman Massacre was extremely uncomfortable.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because now I can bring up this picture. Yeah, the Gorman Massacre was incredibly incredibly uncomfortable to watch. Like, it was great cinematography. Like, the build up and the setup there was a huge payoff from the storytelling perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it is incredibly uncomfortable to watch because you see people who are just in the crowd. They're not doing anything and they're getting hurt. They're getting shot.
They're guilty. Very Imperial.
Yep.
Yep.
And
the fact that the Empire set the whole thing up to be a massacre.
Yeah.
Like, they shot their own soldier to set up, to get an excuse. They had a sniper set up, an Imperial sniper set up to shoot one of the guards that was, riot guards, to then be able to make the excuse of, oh, they shot one of ours, we need to go in. And
that's the horror is the point. Like, that's just, we're intending to establish the Empire as an unassailable and implacable and ultimately horrible.
And they do a good job of making the Empire like horrific.
Oh yeah,
like they do a really. And I saw an interesting comparison between, because I think this show, season 1 and season 2 of Andor, we'll get a lot of comparison to which is better, season 1 and season 2 of Andor, or season 1 and season 2 of Mando. And I think that's like comparing apples and oranges. They're two completely different shows. Even in the style of how, they're done. Whereas, especially season 1 of Mando is very much I almost want to say episodic. Like, you can watch, basically, if you watch episode 1, the first 2 episodes, and the last 2 episodes, you can watch the rest of Mandalorian in any order you want. Like, they're kind of like standalone episodes, whereas with Andor, you have to watch it in a particular order for it to make sense.
Yeah.
But no, from tone to everything, they're two completely different. So I don't think you can really compare the two shows.
No, and you shouldn't, because, like, again, that's like trying to make a comparison between the first Avengers film and the first Justice League film. They're not the same. While they have similar dynamics and almost similar plot structure, they're not the same. With the exception of they both have the same director, Joss Whedon. That's fundamentally, you can't make that comparison. And I think, and like, I took a film appreciation class in college for a couple semesters, because you could get credit for the spring and then credit for the fall, and get a full year's worth of credit for that course.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Once a week, got to watch a movie. It was fantastic. But like, the one of the things that the instructor talked about is that when you are doing any kind of evaluation of a piece of media, a piece of art, you don't compare it to, well, this is how they did it, this is how it should have been done, whatever. You don't compare it to another piece in the same genre. You can make compare and contrasts to things that stand out, where you can make that recognition, but you can't say, well, this did it better, but it's a completely different project. Let it stand on its own merit.
Yeah.
Was it good? Was it objectively bad? What worked for it? What were its strengths? What were its weaknesses?
Yeah.
So what would you guys say are the strengths of
Andor?
Andor?
Kind of wrap
the strengths of Andor?
How would you sum it up?
Storytelling and the setup and the payoff is just amazing.
Yes.
Like, everything that pops up, for the most part, it plays a larger role. Everything from season 1 all through the end of season 2, it's that Chekhov's gun. Whatever is brought up comes up again.
Mm-hmm.
K2SO is in this image. Is he in the show?
He is.
He is.
In
I
the
haven't
last
really
arc.
heard much about him.
Yeah.
It is fun. It is Alan Tudyk. They brought him back.
It is. He is hilarious. I thought that. I mean, you see him, like, from what you see of Rogue One of K2, kind of the humor, but then seeing the droids in action, like especially at
Oh my gosh,
in the massacre, in the Gorman massacre, where you
dude,
just see
that was
them
terrifying. It was
throwing
like
people.
Terminator going at it.
Oh yeah, I mean, you just see them literally throwing people like football field length.
I really liked that in Mando, where we see IG-11 just wrecking shop, because I really enjoyed that. IG-88 obviously literally never moves in the original trilogy. It's nice to see menacing droids actually be a menace.
Yeah,
and that's just it. Like, I mean, especially when you have a droid like this that's like fully armored. Like the K units show up in the first Jedi Fallen Order game, because there's a couple of one of the planets that you go to is Ilum. You go there on a couple of missions, and as you're there, Ilum is in the process of being converted into Starkiller Base, which is very interesting. But they have the K units stationed sporadically throughout the maps, and they are tough as nails. They're hard to fight. And if you don't have yourself leveled up, or if you don't have your skills on par, they can wreck you really easily.
Oh yeah. Well, one thing I noticed when we see them at Gorman is they're wrecking shop, like you said, they're wrecking shop. They don't have any weapons. They have no blasters. No. Everything they're doing is with their hands. It was with just physical brute force.
Yeah, they are enforcers. They are the bouncers.
Yeah. Which makes it so hilarious when you actually hear Alan Tudyk talking as K2 and wisecracking,
and he's just picking people up and using them as human shields.
Yes.
I love that. All right, yeah, renewing Disney Plus tonight.
Yes.
That's a must.
Yes.
Success.
All right. Closing thoughts.
I think it's one of the best Star Wars shows we've seen since Mandalorian season 1. I put it top 2, top 3. I think it was just I don't want to compare it to Mando, so I put it equal to Mando season 1, which is for me is high praise.
Yeah. Mando season 1 was a really strong first entry. Mando season 2 was also equally as strong. It's kind of hard for me to evaluate them in that kind of comparison mode, but like those first 2 seasons plus the entire run of Andor is probably some of the strongest Star Wars that we've gotten out of Disney.
Yeah.
Sans Rogue One.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to say like compare and contrast to those two, but as far as putting it at that level, as far as like
it's strong
character. If I was to do a tier list,
writing.
Yeah, if I was to do like the tier list like the kids like to do nowadays with like the S, A, B, all that, I'd put it.
I don't understand those tier lists. They don't make any sense to me.
I know.
Like S is like number 19 in the alphabet, but why is it up top? I don't. Stupid.
But I put it at like
just like an F Mary Kill situation.
Something like that.
Yeah. Right.
But no, it's definitely probably. I mean, like I say, arguably the best Star Wars we've seen in a long time.
Where would, just out of curiosity, Mark, where would you put Kenobi in that list?
I liked Kenobi.
I very much liked Kenobi.
I very much liked it too. I definitely didn't think it was better than. I don't think it was better than Andor, and I don't think it was better than season 1 and season 2 of Mando. I definitely think it was better than
Mando, but that's just I do like a lightsaber now and again.
Yeah, I do think it was better than Ahsoka.
Yeah,
and I definitely think it was better than Acolyte or in Book of Boba Fett. Oh, definitely. Acolyte's my least favorite so far.
I'm so disappointed. Like, if you can't
I'd
convince
say-
me to watch a show about Darth Plagueis, what have you done wrong?
Yeah,
That's why Darth Plagueis barely shows up.
Right.
Yeah,
As like
but
an
anything
afterthought.
you do.
Yeah. I don't know if it was better than, for me personally, I don't know if I liked Obi-Wan better than Skeleton Crew. That's kind of where I put it. I put those together, like as far as like where I like them equally. I think I like Skeleton Crew just a little bit better. I think it was a fun ride, just a fun show. But I did like Obi-Wan, so I put it somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I don't really know how to scale it because, like I said, I tend to evaluate each thing as its own thing. As far as quality, though, that's a different matter. Quality, I'd say the entire run of Andor is probably the strongest content on Disney Plus as far as like original streaming shows. I'm not counting movies at this point. At that point, I think I'm not sure how to rate it with the first 2 seasons of Mando.
Right.
And then everything else falls into a differing scale as far as like how I put them in the hierarchy. But yeah, it's really strong writing. I loved it. I think probably my only beef with it comes from season 2, and that's in the first 3 episodes where like we get the theft of the TIE Avenger, and then after like halfway through episode 1, like Andor has nothing to do for 2.5 episodes.
Right.
It just feels like he's being ill used, and I get that they're trying to demonstrate other facets of the rebellion and how disconnected and disorganized they were, but at the same time, I think there could have been a better way to incorporate that and restructure it. But that's just me. Tony Gilroy, despite the fact that he's not a fan of Star Wars, did a great job making some of the best Star Wars in the last 10 years. So
exactly.
I don't understand that why creators who are vocally not a fan of the franchise, why they're given the opportunity to contribute to it.
I think it's to, well, because on the one hand, when you have someone who is a diehard fanboy or fangirl, they have a tendency of looking at everything through particular rose-colored glasses. There's you run the risk of wanting to keep things as they are without exploring other avenues. And I think Tony Gilroy does a great job of exploring other avenues of Star Wars and other facets that we've talked about, but we haven't really seen.
Okay.
And I like that. It gives you a fresh perspective. But on the flip side of that, if you have people who claim to be fans but really aren't, it feels that what they're saying is superficial. What they're applying is just like, take The Acolyte, for example. The Acolyte was, everything about it was a self-insert for Jessica Hedlund's, whatever her issues are, she self-inserted so much of her own ideas and politics and everything else that it superseded the story, and what should have been really awesome was weak. It was incredibly weak. And like Acolyte had so much potential for being such a good show. And I'm not going to deny that there are some really cool, really solid effects that were being applied there. However, the current day politics, the making it for a current modern audience instead of just a general audience who could enjoy it was, and it was weak, and it really showed that she wasn't that good of a fan, because it was disingenuous, and it showed that she didn't really understand the lore and the mythos of what she was dealing with.
It seemed like there were several like marked diversions from established canon in that show.
Oh, there were like how you bleed a lightsaber, like
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
yeah. So, and that takes us into a whole different.
Tune in next week when we complain about that.
No, well,
actually, next week we're going to be talking about another review, the review of Skywalker, as we finally talk about Episode 9, and we end up
tune in next week when you'll hear Brian say the word Fortnite more than once.
I don't even play that game, and I already hate it.
So, all right, you can hear me say it more than once tonight. That was my main complaint with Rise of Skywalker, is that the return of Palpatine was announced by Palpatine in Fortnite. I don't play Fortnite. It's not a Star Wars property. I know a lot of people who play a lot of Star Wars video games, present company included, they also do not play Fortnite. It is inexcusable to me that the greatest announcement in galactic history since the death of Palpatine was made in an in-game event in a game that has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Right.
All right, and I'll reiterate that next week. Thanks, folks.
All right.
You have that to look forward to.
Yes. All right, Brian, where can the good people out there in the galaxy find you?
Folks, I hope you'll come join me over at the Sith Library and Archives, a lovingly curated collection of Sith, Empire, First Order, Dathomir, culture, jokes, humor, and art. We've had Garrett over there a few times making some comments. I had taken quite a hiatus off there, but I'm back in the saddle now, and I and my fellow archivists would love to have your participation over there. The Sith Library and Archives. Look for the ampersand.
Yeah, that's crucial, because otherwise you're dealing with someone who's trying to scam you.
I think they may have given up. The two in a row was.
I bet you it was Hondo Anaka.
Onaka! Thanks for tuning in, folks, and thanks for the lesson, guys. I'm going to go renew Disney right now.
All right. As for me, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing, where I talk about my books. I talk about my other show on YouTube, The Right Way, which is getting ready to wrap up its 7th season. I just had a great live stream this last Saturday. I did a creative writing workshop focused on how to write science fiction. And I've got a couple more episodes left before the season comes to a close. I do have a new episode of my other show on Feast of Fandoms, Snackame. That episode is going to be dropping on Friday. We're going to be talking about a very cosmic classic series, Sailor Moon. So tune in for that.
Awesome. All right. As for us right here at War of the Stars, you can check us out and get a hold of us through our email. That is warofthestars1@gmail.com. We are on all other social medias under the name at War of the Stars 77. Check us out there. If you want to support the show, Ko-fi.com/War of the Stars, or you can check out our merch shop still at spreadshirt.com/shop/war-of-the-stars-. We are, of course, as Garrett mentioned, a proud member of Feast of Fandoms. Check out all the shows over there at the Feast of Fandoms. Bunch of good guys and gals over there. A lot of fun, a lot of great shows. Other Star Wars shows, Star Trek, every geeky thing you can imagine, it's over there. That will do it for us for this week. As always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.